I'd like to tell you how a dress can change the world. That probably sounds like a bold statement, but I want to walk you through why it's not so crazy. First, I need to back up a bit. It was around 2005 that I started learning about human trafficking. I learned that slavery exists in every city in the world, around every major sporting event, in brickyards and brothels, truck stops, massage parlors, and many other places. It's estimated that over 35 million people are currently trapped in slavery in our world. Of that number, 50% are children, and 70% are women. Slavery takes many faces internationally, from the forced labor of the garment industry to the sex tourism of underdeveloped nations. The global commercial sex trade is the fastest growing criminal industry in the world. It is massive, and it is thriving. Women are being bought and sold like products. And when I started learning about this, it started a fire inside me. You see, when I was a little girl, I was molested. And for years, I carried the guilt and shame and these questions. Do I matter? Can someone love me? Am I disposable? It took years for me to heal and forgive and move forward. But to this day, when I hear of what's happening to women in the world, the fire inside me grows. So naturally, when I started hearing about this and I felt an urgency to do something about it, I looked to my own unique talents and skill set for a way to engage in this issue. And that's where for years I kept hitting a wall because I'm not a social worker, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a psychologist or a cop. What I am is someone who's interested in fashion and trend analysis, writing and wordplay. My interests felt shallow in the grand scheme of things. And for years I felt powerless, and I remember thinking, there is nothing that I can do about this. But then in 2009, everything began to change, and I didn't even know it at the time. I was in college and feeling stifled by the academic routine and in need of a creative outlet, so I decided to create a style challenge for myself. I decided I would try wearing a dress every day for a month. And so I did it. I wore a dress every day for a month. And I came up with a clever name for what I was doing. Since the month that I was doing it in was December, I came up with the name Dressember. Since I love puns, that pretty much sealed the deal. I never planned to do it again after that first year, but then the next year something interesting happened. Some of my girlfriends approached me and wanted to do Dressember with me. So I did it again with them. And then the following year, my girlfriend's girlfriends approached them and wanted to participate in Dressember. And I realized, okay, people aren't just humoring me, maybe this is a good idea. And I saw what the Movember campaign was doing, encouraging men to grow mustaches in the month of November to raise money for prostate cancer research. And I thought, maybe I can use this to raise some money for an anti-trafficking organization. And so in its 5th year, 2013, I aligned Dressember with International Justice Mission, which is a global human rights organization that works to rescue and restore victims of slavery and other forms of violent oppression. And I remember thinking, we're going to go big, we're going to aim high, we're going to try to raise $25,000, which felt like a huge, scary goal. And then we hit my huge, scary goal on the 3rd day of the campaign. And I realized I needed to start dreaming bigger because the few girls wearing dresses for fun had become a global community of over 1,200 women in 32 countries who collectively raised over $165,000 in a month. Thanks. This last December, we finished our 2nd campaign year, and we doubled participation at over 2,600 women registered and nearly tripled the funds we raised at over $462,000. Thank you. I've realized that something that started as this silly idea born out of boredom has created a global movement. I've started to realize the power of an idea. Last August, I was able to join IJM on a trip to visit one of their field offices. I got to go visit their field office in Guatemala City. And the IJM staff in Guatemala City focuses on cases of child sexual assault. So these are cases where children have been horrifically abused or raped by an acquaintance or mom's boyfriend, or in more cases than we can understand, their own family member. Every few months, the IJM staff in Guatemala City holds what they call a hero ceremony, where they gather the children who have recently testified in court against their abuser, and they honor their bravery in doing so. While I was in Guatemala City, I got to participate in one of these hero ceremonies. They told us a bit about the day, how it would go. There'd be about 24 kids, and we would call them up one by name and put a little pin on them that says, "I am a hero," in Spanish. So they told us a bit about the event and how it would go, but honestly, nothing could have prepared me for what I saw when I walked in that room. There were about 30 kids, most of whom didn't look any older than 10. Some looked as young as 5. There was a 12-year-old girl who had a 2-month-old baby. And I found out she didn't know who the father of her child was, because within the same few weeks, she had been raped by a neighbor and by her father and by her grandfather. Looking these kids in the eyes, hearing their stories, honoring their bravery, and giving testimony against their abuser, sometimes in the face of violent threats, I felt the fire grow. And yet what filled the room somehow was not a sense of despair. What filled the room was a sense of triumph, joy even. And I saw that because of the work of IJM, these kids are seeing justice. That their lives do not have to be defined by their abuse experience. And because of IJM, their stories are continuing and bending toward redemption. I think it's human nature to see any huge injustice and think, there is nothing I can do about this. I don't have the power, the influence, the money, the time, the qualifications. I felt that way. But I saw what I thought was a silly idea. Allow me an opportunity to create a community of like-minded people who together are helping create real change. Dressember has been a success in large part due to its collaborative nature. I've seen what happens when we look for connections between our interests and our passions and invite others into that journey. Last January, I was able to witness the power of collaboration firsthand when I was invited to visit Los Angeles Christian School. Los Angeles Christian School is an inner-city charter school founded by World Impact, and I was invited to visit after a group of 18 boys and girls participated in Dressember. The girls wore dresses and the boys wore bow ties, and together they raised over $800. I sat in on their weekly assembly and listened as 3 girls talked about what the Dressember campaign meant to them. And you know what they said? They said we should be the voice for those who don't have a voice. They said we can be the generation to put an end to this injustice. And they said they're grateful for the chance to stand up for girls just like them who are waiting to be rescued. As kids, we grow up believing that anything is possible and that we can change the world. But years go by, and somewhere along the line, we start believing that we're powerless to change anything. We stop believing that one person's choices can create big changes. Because we believe we can't be super advocates, we stop advocating at all. I'd like to share a video with you about how Dressember creates an opportunity for advocacy through challenging participants to think about their own power in a new way.
The world's greatest injustices have always been fought with courage and creativity.
Some of the boldest acts of fighting injustice have been the most innovative.
Rosa Parks used public demonstration. Helen Keller used storytelling.
Oprah used influence.
It takes courage to believe that you can change things.
It takes courage to create a way to let light into the darkness.
Dressember is about shining that light.
Dressember is an opportunity to advocate for the inherent dignity of all people.
Remembering that the things that unite us
are greater than the things that divide us.
Remembering that courage is contagious.
Join us this December as we declare freedom for all women.
Together with thousands of others around the world,
we will celebrate true femininity,
her courage,
her strength,
her dignity.
For 1 month, with a dress as our flag,
we will carve a path to a better future for women everywhere.
Challenge you to consider the possibility that every decision you make is an opportunity to advocate. That throughout your day, the things you say, the things you buy, the things you wear, there are 1,000 tiny choices you make every day that are opportunities to advocate. It turns out when thousands of people make a tiny choice to wear a dress together, they create huge change. They open closed doors. Because of the woman wearing it, a dress can change the world. Thank you.